Sweet.
Thank you.
Hey, everyone. My name is Pete Monroe. I'm the director of media of TrueKids 1. I'm restating this for posterity and the archive. I'm going to dive right into this. I'm the director of media for TrueKids 1. We're a youth media nonprofit based in Taos, New Mexico. Our mission is to inspire K-12 students to create, communicate, and collaborate in the digital age. A lot of times we're just giving kids tools. We're giving them resources and tools like cameras that they might not normally have access to, iPads, software such as the Adobe Creative Cloud, and with the thrust of media literacy. And for me, a lot of times media literacy is media production. As you produce media, you are speaking a language. So that's really what we teach. We have in-school, after-school, and out-of-school programs. In-school is usually integrated into whatever the subject is. After-school is more kind of open forum, and out-of-school is more of like a professional pathways type of program. So today, we're going to talk about image resolution and file types. This is pretty granular, but I know that this is something that people kind of curious about, and oftentimes, like when you're about to like export a file or save a file and things like that, or when you're setting up your camera, whether it's a professional camera or a phone camera, you're given options, whether you know it or not. You are given options. So that's what we're going to be diving into today. And our subtitle here is a reference to the movie Dr. Strangelove, for those who are curious. So just starting super basic, talking about like, what is a pixel, right? Well, a pixel is basically one of these color blocks. It's just a small piece of information on an image or a video that is essentially a block of color. And you can see this is a nice little example of what happens if you've ever pinch zoomed on your phone, which is probably the most accessible version of this. You start to see these kind of blocks. That's a pixel. And when you zoom out, you actually get to see the big picture. But when you zoom in, you can see that there's really it's just a series of these little color blocks of varying shades, essentially. So that's what a pixel is. If you're looking at a semi-professional camera or professional camera, one of the first specs or specifications that you run into is the megapixel. And I should double check this, but I believe a megapixel is 1,000,000 pixels. I'm going to just check myself on that real quick before I move forward. I don't want to be giving out false information. Yeah, it's 1,000,000 pixels. So if like currently, I would say, I would not, you're probably hard pressed to find a new camera with less than 24 megapixels. So that's 24 million pixels. So like, let's say I take this picture of the deer with a professional camera, you might actually be looking at 24 million pixels. Could I ask whoever is not muted? We're getting some computer noises in the background. So that's what they're talking about when they talk about megapixels. A lot of times when I look to buy a camera, personally, I don't really like buying anything less than 24. We bought a Canon 90D that is 33 megapixels. So I feel pretty comfortable that that's going to be usable for many years to come. I usually like to buy things and kind of what I call future proofing it, like making sure that it's not going to be irrelevant in 5 years. I could buy a 16 megapixel camera and maybe pay a little bit less, but it's not going to be, you're going to get less quality out of it, and it's not going to be very relevant in 5 to 7 years. So yeah, and part of the reason you are looking for those megapixels is because, you don't always take the perfect picture. You might want to crop a little bit. You might want to zoom in and crop, and, it also makes coloring and photo adjustments easier and sharper. It's just a sharper image in general. The next thing is DPI. So this is a little bit, this is where we're getting into like resolution territory. So when DPI stands for dots per inch, I believe. So as you can see, the higher the DPI, the sharper the images. Now, the thing is that 72 is what your phone shoots. I know the iPhone does that. I'm not quite sure about Androids, but I'm pretty confident that that's what those shoot. And that's fine. 72, despite these jagged looking edges here, that's fine for screens. And we'll get into that later. 300, that's more reserved for print. Like if I want to print a photo and put it on a wall, that's where we really need to be considering 300 DPI. And 10 DPI might be from, who knows, 1995. So this is where we get into resolution. Image resolution describes the amount of detail. Essentially, that's, I think, pretty much what's expressed in the DPI page previous to this. They're crisper, they're more detailed. In a low resolution image, the color isn't as good. There's a number of reasons why you might want a higher resolution image. And image also applies to video. I included this link here, which I can put in the chat. This is where I got this information. It explains a little bit more. It even gets into DPI versus PPI. I guess screens are PPI, but they're used interchangeably. So there's not really, they're equivalent to each other, DPI and PPI. And this even actually gives you, it even tells you like how to find the DPI in your image. Like if I go into my Finder, I have these images here, at least on a Mac, and I think you can show this on a PC as well. You can see right here, it says resolution is 72 by 72. So that's 72 DPI versus the dimensions, which is like the size. So I know all this can be a little bit confusing. That's why we're here. And then since I took this on a semi-professional camera, it even tells me the device, the exposure time and all that. Let me see if I can find an iPhone here. So this is from my iPhone. This is also 72 by 72. And you can see that the dimensions are a little bit smaller, but this is still very good resolution, the dimensions. I kind of use dimensions and resolution somewhat interchangeably. like if I go, I don't know if anybody, this is kind of an interesting little test to do here. Like if I search giraffe, and actually I tell my students to do this, go to image. So here's all the images of giraffes. Now, if I click on the first one, let's see, when I hover over the image here, you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, it says 1200 by 1500 or 1518. So that's pretty good. So what happens when I right click, save image as, I'll save it to my desktop, save. You'll notice that it saves as a JPEG. The JPEG is the most common image file type that you can find. So this just tells me the dimensions. It doesn't tell me the resolution. So let's see if we click on get info. It doesn't look like it tells me the DPI, but that's okay. The point is that when I preview it, you can kind of see like, I mean, it looks perfectly sharp. I know that this is probably going to get a little distorted through the lens of Zoom, but this is pretty sharp. As I zoom in, it's like still pretty sharp, but I'm starting to see some pixelation. And then as I zoom in more, now I can really start to see the jagged edges of the pixelation. Okay. Is there a difference between? No, there's not a difference between JPEG and JPEG. And in fact, there is, that's on one of my slides because that came up. So there's screen resolution and print resolution. Screen resolution is measured in pixels per inch. And as it says here, 72, the optimal resolution is 72, mainly because increasing it doesn't make it any better. And in fact, it'll slow down your website. It definitely won't make a difference on like Instagram or Facebook. Like on your phone, on a mobile device, your screen is only capable of so much information. You know what I mean? If you're looking at a picture on a giant 8K TV or something, then okay, you might actually be able to pick up on detail that might not, that would not be there otherwise. But that's why by default, a lot of devices have 72 DPI as the setting. Print resolution is dots per inch. That's because it's coming out of a printer. So when you print it in a book, it doesn't matter if you print in a book or like a big poster, they typically want 300 DPI. That's just the standard for high resolution. You don't want, you really don't want anything less than that. My wife has had artworks printed, like images of her artwork printed in books, and they have asked for 300. So those are kind of the two standards, 72 and 300. Unless you're printing, if you take a photo to a printer, that's when you want to get it. That's when you want to make sure 300 DPI. So just to interrupt and give you guys an example here. So here's this picture of my dog, right? I'm going to open this. I have the default app as preview. So again, like I can zoom in. This is maybe not the best. Actually, you know what? I took some photos for y'all with a camera I have sitting right next to me, the Canon T8. So I took a photo of this, and you'll see that there's 4 different images. And I took them because the camera has different settings. And then there's actually a bunch of different settings, but I took 4 of them, basically low, medium, a better medium, and a raw. Or actually, I did like a low, medium, high, and raw. And you can see, like, I'll start with the lowest, okay? So 2400 by 1600, and it's 72 by 72 DPI. And notice that the file size is 1.8 megabits. Okay, so I can zoom in. You start to see like that's pretty jagged, right? I mean, but this is still very good. It's still a 24 megapixel resolution camera. So I can zoom in, I could crop and still get a pretty dang good image. And then as I scooch up, still 72 by 72, but the dimensions have gotten bigger. So now I'm at 3984 by 2656. And the file size has gone up to 2.7 megabits. So notice when I zoom in, and I have screenshots to show you the difference, but I can crop in quite a bit better. Why? Because the image is so much bigger. I mean, it's not twice as big, but it's significantly bigger. It's about 1,000, like 1,500 in one direction and 1,000 in another direction. And then boom, 6,000 by 4,000. This is huge. 72 by 72 still. And the file size, this is where we're starting to get into bigger file sizes. Okay, this is the largest JPEG file size this camera can do. Okay, 9.7 megabits. So now, and when I crop in, it's like, it's still pretty damn good. Like, I'm not seeing any pixelation yet until maybe I hit, I don't even know. Like, you really got to zoom in here to get pixelation. And then there's RAW. Now, RAW, this, you can notice that it's .cr3. CR3 is, I guess, unique maybe to, it's probably Canon RAW. That's probably what that stands for. And you can see that the file size is huge, huge. If I were setting out to print, if I wanted to print this and if I knew that I was going to be printing something very large, then I probably want to use RAW. Also, what happens is you can, the ability to color correct, you can see that the colors get kind of funky too, because it's basically, it's more detailed. There's like even some black spots on the other one. There weren't really. So yeah, so, and now 6,000 times 4,000. I'm going to do some quick math here. 6,000 times 4,000 is, I believe that's 24 million. That makes sense because it's a 24 megapixel camera, right? So that's the largest file size it can do. That's where that comes from. So you're looking at, when I press space bar right now, your eyeballs, whether you know it or not, are looking at 24 million pixels. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around. Okay, so now check this out. I'm going to change the view here to the gallery mode. So I took screenshots here. And this is what I did. I zoomed in all the way, okay? So you can see I took 4 different photos and I zoomed in all the way. So you can see how this really starts to affect, like, this is a screenshot of this, which is the smallest one. This one is a screenshot of this one, which is the medium. And I know that we can't tell the difference here, but you can see how much more I can zoom in between the small JPEG, the medium JPEG, and the large JPEG, right? So this is actually 24 megapixels. This is probably, I guess that's less. Let's do some more quick math. 2,400 times 1,600. So that's like almost a 4 megapixel photo. So that's what all this means when we get down to it. And so here's basically all the different file types. Honestly, I really don't pay attention to too much of this stuff. I'm also not really a photographer. I'm a filmmaker and a video production person who by nature just knows some photo stuff. But here's that JPEG or JPEG. I don't know why they took out the E, but that's what it stands for, Joint Photographic Experts Group. PNGs, I'm pretty confident, are almost always larger. GIF, which if you've ever shared a GIF with anybody via text, you'll know that it's like a moving series of images. TIFF, tagged image file. PSD, which is just a Photoshop document. PDF, which we all know, which you can actually take an image and turn it into a PDF. I've never heard of EPS. Adobe Illustrator, that's more for graphic design, Adobe InDesign, and then RAW. And then again, I included this link to further description about it. There's this whole thing about vector versus raster images. Essentially, vectors are like a mathematical equation and they can be resized without losing quality versus a raster image, which is just like fixed. It's like a fixed amount of pixels. And as you resize it or make it, as you make it bigger, you will lose quality. Much like how when I zoomed in on those photos, we lose quality. So here's JPEG. Again, this is the most common version. They're known for their lossy compression, meaning that the quality of the image decreases as the file size decreases, as I just illustrated in my Finder showing you the different sizes. So the smaller the megapixel, the less the quality. There is no difference between JPEG. PNGs are the most interactive documents, but they're not suitable for print. They are called lossless, meaning you can edit them and not lose quality. A lot of times, like, for example, if let's say I'm going to make a copy of this and I'm going to open it. You can go into, I'm not sure again there's a similar kind of tool in the default Windows photo program, but you can adjust the size right here. So this is measured by inches. So if I change it to pixels, it shows me 6,000 by 4,000, right? Let's see what happens if we do 300. Not much, but you can print it. So it's really just a matter of whether you're printing or not when it comes down to that. So the GIF are the most common animated form. TIFF it's a large raster file that doesn't lose any quality. These are, as it says here somewhere, you don't want to use TIFF for website performance. These are strictly, I think, used for, it says, saving photographs for print, right? Like if you're a professional photographer and you're developing a portfolio, then you're probably saving TIFFs. And that way, if somebody wants a print, you got the file ready to go, So it's going to be very high quality, but you don't always want higher quality doesn't always mean the best, right? Because as it said, it's like it will impact, it could take, your website has to load this giant file. What if it's like a gigabyte or something? And there's the Photoshop. That's really, I'm not quite sure. It's really just if you're using Photoshop, do you need Photoshop? Can you even create a Photoshop file? PDFs were invented by Adobe. If a designer saves your vector logo in PDF format, you can view it without any design editing software. So there's some advantages to PDF. Like I said, I've never used EPS. These others are not terribly important to me, but RAW, this is the least processed image. So, like some people like to color correct, and they want the most out of their image. That's where these raw files come into play, because, there's a big difference between, like, when I take a photo on this camera sitting next to me, it has like a default color profile. If we search, let's search color corrected versus not color corrected. You can see there's like, this is from a movie, but you can really control, what, like, if this is the original image, you can really, this is color corrected and color graded. There's a lot to control. So when this is why people shoot RAW. This is why professionals shoot RAW, I should say. That's what I think people don't realize is when you take a photo, even with a professional camera, there's like a automatic color correction that's happening. Like, the cameras are set to make it look something like this. But what happens is the truth is that this image, even though it looks kind of flat and washed out, there's more information when it's flat. In fact, a lot of cinematographers and a lot of photographers, they'll shoot RAW because it's flat. That's the advantage of digital, is like you get this flat, grayed out, washed out image, but there's more information. Because what happens when you have the corrected version, like if you shoot it that way, the darks are going to be very dark and the whites are going to be very white. And so what happens is you actually lose information in those areas. By making it washed out and grayed, you're kind of like lower contrast means more information, essentially. Any questions, thoughts, questions, feelings, concerns? Okay, so video resolution, on the other hand, is a bit of a different ball game. These are the most common video resolutions. I pulled this picture off the internet. I don't know too many people who are messing around with 8K just yet. We shoot all of our video at TrueKids in 4K. A lot of my students, I try to encourage 1080 because in order to edit 1080, or in order to edit 4K video, you have to have a computer that has at least 16 gigs of RAM. If you try to edit with less than that, you will probably suffer lots of spinning wheels. You can, however, you can edit 4K on a 16 gig of RAM, but even 32 gigs of RAM is preferred. That's what my computer is, and I'm editing 4K all the time. Before I got this, I had a 16 gigabit 16 gigs of RAM, Mac Mini, and it was slow. There was times where the video was skipping. And I mean, obviously video files are going to be much, much, much larger than photos because you're dealing with a series of images. I don't know too many people that use 720p anymore, but I know that it's kind of still kicking around. There's still a lot of cameras that shoot slow motion in 720, and they'll basically just kind of scale the image up in editing. Like in Premiere Pro, if I have a 1080 canvas, right? If I'm working in a timeline where the image size is 1080 and I bring in some video that's 720, there's going to be a bunch of black around the image because it's a smaller video file or a smaller video resolution. So I need to stretch it and make it bigger. And so you lose a little bit of quality, but you can make it work. And actually what I do a lot of times, the cameras that we have, we shoot 4K, but I have a couple cameras that shoot slow motion in 1080. And so I will up-res the 1080p video to 4K, and it doesn't look too bad. You know, it doesn't have the crispness and the clarity of 4K, but it works. And 8K, like I said, I just don't know anybody who's using it. I think it's like right now just on TVs. I don't really know. There's cameras that'll shoot 8K, but I'm not really bothering with them because, again, it's like, you know, it's just the computer power you need to edit it, you know. Here's another little cross section of it just to kind of reiterate. Let me change this background color really quick so you guys can see. Let's maybe make it like there we go. Okay. I noticed that, see this 4K DCI? There's some cameras that'll shoot 4K. This is pretty standard, 3840 by 2160. And then there's some that shoot 4096 by 2160. So you get a little bit extra width in 4K DCI. This is the difference between DCI and UHD, which stands for Ultra HD. 2.7K, it's kind of unusual. There's some cameras that do shoot this. Why would we shoot it? Well, because if you're going to be editing in 1080, when I say 1080, I mean 1920 by 1080. That's like the shorthand, right? A lot of times you'll see 720p, 1080p, 2160p. They use the vertical as a shorthand. But if you take you can shoot in 2.7K, or there's some other variations of this kind of middle ground. And if you want to reframe your image, your video, you can do that without losing quality. And now what they have is a lot of cameras will shoot 6K, which is like an in-between, obviously, between 4K and 8K. There's a lot of cameras that'll shoot 6K, so that if you need to make little reframing adjustments, then you can do that in 4K without losing quality. And this is like just outdated. SD is standard definition, high definition, true HD, or some people call this full HD. This is like still very standard. The other thing that should be noted about video is frame rates, video frame rates. So I can choose my resolution, right? The most common being 1920 by 1080 and 4K. But then you're also given the option of frame rates, and you can find this on your phone. And I can even do a demo if we have some time at the end. But FPS stands for frames per second. So when we go to the movies, we shoot, we are seeing 24 frames per second. So every single second that goes by, it's like a flip book, 24. It's just like a flip book, 24 frames every single second. Online, I think 30 and 60 are more common there. The advantage of 60, I guess, is that this is kind of the beginning of slow motion. Like if I'm working in a 24 frames per second timeline in an editor, video editor, then I can take a 60 frames per second video clip and I can slow it down to 40% speed. And I will still get a very smooth image because it's like playing back at 24 frames per second. If I try to take a 24 frames per second video and play it back in half speed, 50% speed, you're going to get a very choppy looking video, right? And you can't really, same thing with 30, because 24 is the minimum frames per second that the eyeballs can see and have it look seamless, like not choppy, basically. So a lot of people shoot at 60 so that they have the flexibility to slow down. And then the slow motion, you really get into 120, 180, and 240. So, this really creates a kind of more cinematic look. There's lots of videos online that will illustrate what that looks like. There's some cameras that go up to even 10,000 frames per second or 50,000 frames per second. That's more like bullet time stuff. And there are cameras that are specifically designed to do just slow motion. Like they don't shoot regular. They only shoot super slow motion. And actually the iPhone, I know, will shoot up to 240 frames per second, but not in 4K. So that's where cameras start to, you often have to trade off frames per second for resolution, right? Like I know you can shoot 1080, 240 in, you can shoot 120 and 240 in 1080, but you can't shoot it in 4K. Not yet, anyway. And then there's all these different video file types. I know that this can also cause a little bit of what I call tech anxiety. It's like, what does all this mean? Well, this link helps us explain. There's different file types. It's that kind of thing where most of the time you really don't need to worry about anything besides MP4 or MPEG-4. It's the most common video file format. The fact that it's Apple's preferred format is kind of irrelevant, but I think it's just kind of a balance between quality and file size. It says it offers lower definition. And yeah, like if I'm going to screen a film in a movie theater, I'm probably not going to use MP4. However, there are some digital cinema projectors that I've gone to the movie theater here, the Taos Center for the Arts, and I've seen them project MP4 files in 1080, let alone not even 4K, and it looks pretty damn good. So I think that's why 1080 is so popular, is because it just, it just holds up over time. And most people can't necessarily tell the difference between 4K and 1080, which is a little shocking, but it's true. I think when you sit in front of an editing program for hours, you start to see the difference. But there's MOV. This is higher quality, but the files are larger. It was developed by QuickTime for Apple. There's Windows Media Viewer. Again, good quality, but large file size. AVI, This is these are actually pretty universal. They work for a lot of different computers, and different platforms like YouTube support them. It's pretty good. It's pretty good file size as well. AVCHD stands for Advanced Video Coding High Definition. These, as it says, were designed by Panasonic, or they're built for Panasonic and Sony. This is not something you export in. It's usually like something that is ingested in a computer, like when you import into a video editor. FLV, I don't really see ever. MKV, this is also pretty universal. I don't know if it works with Adobe, but it's free and it's open source. And then WebM, again, something I haven't really messed around with. So these are all the different file types and sizes. And that's pretty much the end of the slides that I have. What I wanted to do quick, actually, and April, I might need your help. I wanted to log in on my phone and show you guys the just some of the video settings on my phone. So give me 1 second.
Recording in progress.
Okay. So I'm going to screen share. Oh, I think I need screen sharing permissions. There we go. Okay. So here I am on my phone. Whoop. Oh, and I went vertical. I feel like I just killed my phone. Hold on 1 second. Let's try this again.
Recording in progress.
Am I able to screen share this way or no? I might just have to go vertical. Oh. Give me 1 second. Let's try this again. Okay, fantastic. Okay, maybe we'll just go vertical. So here I am in my camera. Oh my gosh. See, I'm learning things. I can't broadcast video on my phone. It's not even giving me the option. Normally down at the bottom here, there would be, that's amazing. Well, let's see. Maybe I might have another app that I can do this. Let's try this one. I don't know if this does video though. Well, you live and learn, I guess. Well, let's try Pro Movie, see if this. Bummer. Well, in the event that you go in, that you try to there's different settings on your iPhone. I'm sure I could like find a video of it on YouTube right now. But maybe we can do that instead. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Sorry for the delay, guys. Yeah, that's okay. Rest assured that there are settings on your phone. Well, that's all I have. Is there any questions or anything like that? I'm happy to do some demos. I could do some demos in Premiere.
Yeah, sure. That'd be nice. Pete.
Okay. Okay. So, let's see here. Trying to find something. Oh, I'm plugging in another hard drive here. So here's me and a bunch of students filmed some stuff for the town of Taos at there was like a Halloween event. So let's see, boy. So this is Premiere Pro. Normally it's just looking like this. There's your project viewer over here, your source monitor here, program monitor, and timeline. This could definitely be like a class of its own. And this is normally what I teach. So I'm going to import some footage. I have all my footage here in, let's see, I'm going to grab this one because actually I'm going to grab these two. And I'm going to import both of them. And by the way, if, for those of you out there who, don't want to invest in Premiere Pro, which I think runs about $26 a month or $22 if you pay for the year, which I totally get, there's a very nice cheap alternative that I found called Power Director. I really like this one. This one, it's very similar. You have a timeline, you import your media. You can, it very much works the same way. You drag your media in and it's just a nice, cheaper alternative. And I think it runs something like $6 a month or something. But it's just laid out in a very simple, easy kind of way where you can just drag clips in, you can edit them, but there's also like a decent amount of functionality. Like there's all these, you can do masking, you can crop, you can do speed, blending modes, which is kind of cool, which basically means you can like layer video. Like if I want to, this was actually the thing that I was most impressed by. Like if I wanted to layer two images, like you see here, you can do that. And that's not very common in video editors. So if you want, something more complicated, you can do that. But anyway, so here I just imported into Premiere Pro my video. So here's like all my raw video, right? This is all my raw video. We shot this. If I hover over this clip, it'll tell me the name of the file. It also says 3840 by 2160. So we remember that as 4K. And then the other thing is it says 23.976p. So in video world, you just round that up to 24. So these are shot in 24 frames per second. Now the C200, this stuff was shot in 5994, also known as 60. So I can, if I double click here, it shows up in my source monitor, right? And I can scrub and kind of scan through the footage, and I can pick little moments to, cut. Like if I want to start the edit here, I press the letter I for in, and I scroll down and I press O for out. And now I have this little clip, right? Now I can either drag it down, I can just drag from the picture down like that, and it creates a timeline for me right here. You can see that the icon right here is different than this icon represents clips. This icon represents a timeline. And I can rename the timeline and call it Halloween. And okay, so I can do that, or I can just drag the video because I don't really need the audio. And I can create a timeline like that using just the video. So now there's no audio, right? So now I start, and then here I am like in my edit. So this one was 24p. This camera was 60p. So I'm going to take a little section of this, and you can even see it when you watch the playback. It's a little bit, there's something cleaner about the video. So now right now I'm playing a 60p video back in a 24 frames per second timeline. But if I right click and I go to speed duration, I can take this down to 40, and you can see how the clip stretched out. And now it's kind of got this slower movement to it, right? And that's what I was saying. It kind of like has this subtle kind of cinematic look to it, but it's not choppy. Now, if I go here and I slow down, let's say I slow down the 24p by even 50%. Now let's watch what happens. I don't know if you guys can see it very well through Zoom, but you can see that it's much choppier, that you can tell that there's like this frame missing, and actually we even have some GoPro footage that we shot in the GoPro. Actually, you can shoot the GoPro in like 240 frames per second. So the only thing is that I don't know which is which. Let me see what happens when I import this. Maybe I can find one in these last few minutes here. So you'll see right here where it says frame rate, I'm just going to scroll down. Oh, we got one. See here it says 239.76. So this tells me that this is a slow motion video. So now I'm going to find a little moment, this little girl in the thing. I'm going to press I for the in point. I'm going to press O for the out point. And now I'm going to drag my clip into my timeline. And aha. So this is also another good example. Remember, I said I think it can only shoot at 2.7K slow motion. So I have to go into my effects controls, and right here I can control the scale, and I can upscale it until it fills in the frame. And actually, you can even control this over time if you want, but I'm not going to get into that today. Now I'm going to take this. Now I have 240 frames per second, and this is a 24p timeline. Now, quick math, I can take that down to 10%. Okay, and we're gonna get 24, we're still getting 24 frames per second. And it's just this nice kind of cinematic, slow. I mean, the GoPro, for the record, is really fantastic. I absolutely love the GoPro. We have so much fun with it, and the kids love it, and it shoots amazing quality. I mean, it's not, you can't control the lens because there's no lens. It's like a fixed lens essentially. But that's how we do it. In fact, just for fun, I'll show you guys. I was shooting a project in Cuesta, and these kids were shooting. Oh wait, where is it? Do I still have it? This is the kind of stuff that you can do. So these kids had to do a commercial it's like a fake commercial about a ball that comes back to you. So they call it the boom ball. And they created these little fake toys essentially. And one of the things we got to do was that you cannot do with any other camera is one on the side. You can, like, we literally, we duct tape a GoPro to a ball and we rolled it. So the GoPro, there's just a lot of fun things. It's super durable. It can go up to 30 feet underwater. It's really, like, without a case, even 30 feet underwater. So, and then there's things like, you can just tape it to stuff and throw it, and you get this crazy looking footage. So, sorry if that made anybody dizzy, but anyway, I see that we're out of time. So thank you guys so much. I'll put my email in the chat in case anybody needs it. Happy to talk cameras and editing and all that kind of stuff.
All right, Pete. Well, thanks a lot for another informative session. We look forward to your future sessions, and hope everyone has a great day today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Bye-bye.